Stephen, thank you very much for coming on the program. We're going to kind of introduce you in a way, in a conversational way, as we always do. Let's find out a little bit about you and your story. But why did you want to get kind of involved with this radio station and and particularly looking at business and helping not just this community but communities throughout Bristol and the region?
Well, I think for many reasons. I think it's absolutely essential for anyone with any sort of influence to try to use that for the benefit of the community where they're based, the community where they live, or the community generally. That's whether it's wherever that might be. Social enterprise is a fantastic opportunity for people, but unless it's sustainable, then it isn't around to do the good it should do. So my reason for getting involved is to help promote that cause, really.
Great. That's a great introduction. So you talked about where you lived. Where did you kind of get your first influence in business? And tell us, the listeners, a little bit about your personal background.
Well, I came from a disenfranchised family. My mother and father were divorced when I was 4. My mother went to live in a place in Wiltshire. She lived in a small caravan because that was all she could afford at the time. My parents didn't have any money, they didn't have any influence, and didn't know anyone really. My dad remained in Bristol and then went to live in a one-bed council flat, Roger, and where I lived partly between the two. So for much of my childhood I fluctuated and moved from place to place with them. The touring caravan that my mother lived in, incidentally, we never toured anywhere because we didn't have a car. She just lived in it. She rented it and lived in it. So that was that. It wasn't, we didn't have a car to tow it anywhere. But she lived it instead of a house. And then when I was about 10, we moved from there to a prefab. Or she did, but I lived between my mother in Bristol and my father in Bristol and my mother in Wiltshire. So for me, growing up, I spent a lot of time on my own because both my parents had the work ethic. They both went to work, but they didn't have any money. They didn't earn anything.
So what about schooling this?
Well, that was one of the issues because I had very little schooling. I really studied by reading books in libraries, which is part of the reason why I'm involved with the British Library today.
The whole basis of your whole initial career in terms of being with a phone box, how did that come into it?
Yeah, well, how that happened was when I was about 14, well, I was 14, I would have been 15 in the August. I stumbled when I used to do paper rounds, and wherever I was, I could never have a paper round as other people did because I wasn't in one place long enough. I would be with my dad or I'd be with my mum. So what I did is I used to go to paper shops in the morning early, and maybe 5:30, 5:45, when the guys were putting the papers out, the newsagents. And if it was lashing down with rain in November or December, I'd go to them and say, have you got any paper boys that haven't turned up? And they'd say, usually yes, 3, 2, whatever. And I'd say, well, do you want someone to do the round? And they'd say, yes, please. And I'd say, well, it's 3 times the usual amount, please. And they'd say, no, we have a rate. And I said, no, that's a rate for someone that isn't here. I am here, and it is cold, and I am here, and it's raining. And so if you want me to do the round, I'll do it, but I want 3 times the rate. So usually they turn around and say, you've got to be joking, we've only got the rate, that's it, you've got to be paid that. I say, fine. And the amount of times that I was chased down the road, walking away from it, by the guy saying, come back. And then they'd say, well, you go and do the round, we'll sort it out. I said, no, up front. You've got to pay me up front. I'm not going to do the round in the freezing rain and come back and you're going to give me the normal amount. You give me the proper amount.
I want to speak about where this, because it's one of our first theme of our first show, is in around, because we've got a film about your background, but confidence and the kind of the lack of it. Where have you found this? And you started your paper round early. You've had the ability to just use a phone box. You had a business earn on. You should have been at school. Where does this kind of confidence come from?
I think in part it came from something my mum used to say that I don't know that she really realised the relevance of it, but it was quite relevant to me. And she used to say to me, always remember that you're as good as anyone, But always also remember, you're not necessarily better than everyone. So don't get too high-handed about things. On the other hand, always remember you're as good. So I was chatting, the illustration of this for young people, I would just say this. I was chatting to a girl the other week, and she's clearly, she's got a problem. She's worried about her weight. And I said to her, "Why are you worried about?" "Oh, I don't think." She didn't want to go into a room with lots of people straight in. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Why are you worried about that?" And she said, "Oh, I don't. There's other people." I said, "You should always remember something. When you go into a room, if there are 10 people in there, you're probably around about the middle of that group. You're probably, and I don't mean this disrespectfully to anyone." You're probably not the best looking person in the room, but you're unlikely to be the ugliest. You might not be the fittest in the room or the brainiest or whatever, but you probably aren't the most stupid either. Always remember that most of us, no matter who you are and wherever you are in life, there's always someone better and there's always someone worse. That's good enough.
Wise words indeed from Dr. Fear. Charlotte and Poku, I want to bring you guys in around confidence. How do you, especially Poku, I'm going to start with you, with the people that you're working with, how does confidence play a factor in the work that you do?
I don't know what research will say, but I certainly do think that at times it's just how your parents interact with you. And that's irrespective of whether it's a one parent or two parents in the house, is those few words. And at times, you may be lucky to spark a conversation with someone like Dr. Spears somewhere that stays with you throughout your entire journey. And I've seen that. And actually, if I'm to be honest, in a way, I'm a bit of a product of that. When I first started back in Africa, actually, started going into business trying to, I didn't have any money equally, obviously not as big as Dr. Fears, but I was trying to get properties of property developers, and talking hundreds of thousands that I didn't have. But it stems from what my uncle told me, that you can be anything as well, that you wanted to. You didn't have anything in your accounts. That's irrespective. So I do think that at times it's what people say.
And Charlotte, I mean, on an individual basis, you're studying, so you're trying to climb the ladder. And I can think back at the times I was employed for 10 years before I became, and going through some quite hard times in terms of depression, and you don't think you're going to make it. Again, how much does confidence play a part in you're in your third year, you're bringing up your daughter? How much does confidence on both sides of the fact, the good and the bad, play a factor?
I would definitely say confidence is nearly everything. It's definitely about your attitude, how you go through your struggles and your mountains that you've got to get over. I completely agree with Dr. Fear, and I would say for myself, I've had a lot of mountains and molehills that I've had to cross, but with the confidence, that's helped take me through them, And I've just learnt that, in terms of networking and just showing myself that I have that confidence inside. Even when I didn't, I had to show it. That has helped take me to certain places, and that's what I'm learning at the moment.
So, back to you, Dr. Fear. So, we talked about how you managed to build up your empire. What are the key things that you think you've used within that?
I think the most important thing is that I always start every relationship, regardless of what it is in my life, business, friendship, no matter what it is, as if it's a relationship for life. So when I make contact with someone, I like to believe in my own mind that relationship will endure for the rest of my life. So by taking that attitude, you're looking for something that is creating something worthwhile for the two people meeting in that relationship, not just for one. And by that, what happens actually over the years, or has happened to me, is that I keep doing lots and lots of more business. People keep coming to me with lots and lots of more ideas. And the reason, because we try to deliver, because it's long term.
One key relationship that got you to that helped to build the business into a kind of empire that you have now?
I think the first important thing for me, because I didn't have any money and I didn't have any capital in real terms, when I got started, as I gradually built my business into something worthwhile, I needed a lawyer. And I met a lawyer in Bristol who unfortunately died about 6 years ago, was a very, very great friend of mine for his entire life. He was older than me. I, at the time when I was probably 17 or 18, he was probably mid-30s. He was a partner of a practice in Bristol and was a really super guy and gave me lots of really good advice. He played a big part. He was actually born on July the 4th, which is Independence Day in the States, and every year my son Leon and I still go to his grave in the Cotswolds, right. And we go with a bottle of red wine, and we take 3 glasses, one for him, one each for us, usually in the morning, and just in case any police officers, we don't drive, only after the 1 glass, so don't worry, and we have a glass each, and we give Richard, his name was Richard Wells, and we give Richard a glass, we pour it over the grave, say cheers, and then off we go. For us, both of us, he was a big influence. He was a great counsellor, and I think it's important for young people, if I might just say this, I think it's important for young people particularly to pick the right role models and the right people to follow, because you've got to remember that it's your life. It doesn't belong to someone else. It belongs to you. So you must make the decision to follow the right people in the right way. Because the other thing is that attitude is, I would say this, attitude is more important than aptitude.
Absolutely.
The right attitude can take you anywhere. The wrong attitude, with great deal of aptitude, can still take you into problems.
Poco, I mean, this is where you kind of fit in now, because you've got the Ask About Me event that you use what Dr. Fear is describing as mentoring in a fact. Yeah. How are you using mentoring in a capacity for BYEP?
It's along the same lines, and I like what Dr. Fear just said there, talking about the right mentor, so to speak, or role model, and that's what we believed in. So when we were shaping up this concept of Ask About Me, which is essentially leads on to mentoring and relationship, we're thinking, what's the best way to go about it? But we chose that there's no need of us finding someone who wants to mentor and someone who wants to be mentored and putting them together, but rather let's put people who want to mentor and people who want to be mentored in the same room and let them form those natural relationships. And through that, if they want to carry on with those relationships, at least for the next 3-4 months after the event, we can then help them. So that's what Ask About Me is about. It's a dinner and a networking event, bringing together professionals from diverse backgrounds and young people who wouldn't otherwise have that access to such professionals, to just dine with, network with, and if they want to carry on the relationships, BYP as an organization sort of supports them over a period of time in their initial stages.
Excellent. I'm going to start blushing in a moment because Charlotte actually sought me out, and that's why she's on the show and that. But what other role models and you always give me praise, and it makes me blushing despite my colour. It makes me feel there. But it's good that you give that feedback. But how important is that to you, Charlotte?
It's extremely important. I mean, I think especially as a young person, and I've just decided to believe in myself even when I was in a position a long time ago where I felt like no one really believed in me. You get to a point where you do need role models, and you get to a point where you do need someone to say, okay, I believe in you, I'm going to help you out, or, a certain type of mentoring, and that's something that is key, quite important. You definitely need a role model, and it's finding the right role model.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to go back a step. Charlotte, how is this, Stephen talked eloquently about a business case, and we talked about a business plan. I played a master plan earlier. I mean, are you taught such things on your course?
Yes, we have. We spoke a lot about business plans and how you go about it and each steps that you have to take. And I've got to say, especially as a young person and being my age, I definitely see that there's different options available for help. But that's only because I'm the type of person who will go and seek it out, and I'll study and Google everything. But I feel like a lot of young people still feel like there's a bit of a glass ceiling effect, that they can't they can see it but they can't touch it, and I just feel like it still need to be a bit more open and make people more aware that they can access this sort of help.
And Poco, are you seeing this?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I guess it's in two ways. As Dr. Fear touched on earlier, at times we are more easily to become a product of our environment than to become a different product. And to be able to become a different product, we have to try and find the lens that makes us see things differently. So relating back to what Charlotte said, at times young people do see that, okay, there are banks, but they can't really touch it. They don't even know the processes to touch it. And perhaps, well, fine. The access, I think Dr. Fee is spot on. At the moment, there's so many of them that even if you don't want to walk into your bank, you know about crowdfunding, and you know about other means of generating income. What I wanted to add to that is that I feel that is partly the responsibility not only of our guardians but also the community at large. That if we were, when I say the community, I'm also talking about youth organizations and things of that nature, to try as much as possible to be the bridge. If they can even help those young people to actually be the referral points that said, hey, there is that support there. And if you heard of what Dr. Field was saying, just go for it. Just go speak to the bank manager or just look online for crowdsourcing website. So there's a bit of a bridge there that I think basically needs to be in place.
Definitely, and there's definitely more options available, certainly, which we're going to talk to Dr. Fear about because he's had some experience of it in terms of partnering. It was the only way my parents managed to get their house. We've got things like social investment bonds, you mentioned crowdfunding, and crowdsourcing as well, lots of different things. And our good old friends at the LEP as well. We're going to come back with much more, after this very, very quick break. Talk about the great new scheme that you've just launched, the Buffy scheme.
Yeah, well, it was actually initially it was launched. I launched it at the British Library last year. It was the British Bankers Association launched a new scheme. It's called Buffy, Buffy, and if anyone wants to look it up, just put my name and Buffy into Google. That's probably the easiest thing because I can't think of the website address offhand. But
not the Vampire Slayer, but Buffy.
Not the Vampire Slayer. No, not the Vampire Slayer. This is the Finance Slayer, Roger. Or the Access to Finance Slayer. What they need to do, anyone listening to this in the UK, because I know we have got listeners around the world in Miami and other parts of the world that were listening to this tonight, because I've had loads of emails today from people that are going to tune in. So, but more important, to do with Bristol, the community here, Buffy, put my name and Buffy, Buffy, and British Bankers Association, or for short, BBA, into Google, and something will come up, and basically it's a website that directs you to funding. Grant funding, where you might find funding. Have a look at it and see if it's any good for your particular purpose. That would be my advice.
Poku, I met you many years ago, and you had you've had access and assistance. You've done very well in terms of getting funding. Who's been the key points in helping BYEP getting some funding?
I think I'll go back to what Charlotte said. Charlotte said, which is at times you just have to keep looking out there. Not your usual, because interestingly enough, we've never approached the city council, and actually it was only this year that they rather approached us, which was quite an interesting dynamic. But if you keep looking out there, there are, for young people listening, so there is Unlimited, they fund individual startups. There are several other organizations such as Unlimited, the SSC program, and a few others that, they can tap into as individuals as opposed to an established organizations, which is what most grant funding bodies tend to look out for. So I think the opportunities out there. It's about being proactive.
Okay, great.
As Charlotte said.
So now we have our question of the week, Safia. What have we got?
Thank you, GMan. Well, I know that some of our listeners are concerned that without a business degree or business qualification that they basically won't have the opportunity to start their own business. So I think especially in the kind of world we're in now, it's so competitive out there. Do you think it's more important now to get a kind of business degree, or do you think there are ways you can kind of go about it without that kind of thing? And I know obviously it is expensive as well, so a lot of people wouldn't be able to afford that. So.
No, well, I think it's an excellent question. I don't know whether you lot made it up or someone posted it in, but whoever made it, it's a good question anyway. I think it is important to educate yourself in whatever it is you're trying to achieve, because the business world is more complicated than it was. There are more regulations, not just VAT and tax and things like that, but import-export regulations if you're importing and exporting. But I don't think I believe that someone aged 19 who has not had any education and to speak of can achieve and become something. Absolutely. There's no question whatsoever. Confidence, there is no time, there isn't a time when you can't go and learn. Now you can go back to school, you can go back to college or university, or go if you've never been before. There are all sorts of opportunities. But do I believe that it's absolutely necessary and without it you can't succeed? No. The most important thing is self-confidence, approach, attitude, and focus. And I'd just like to say that, focus on what it is you want to do. And don't listen to the people that say you can't do it. Listen to the people that say you can do it. You can achieve anything in life. In fact, most things are possible, and most of them actually are probable if you keep focused and don't give up.
Excellent. Charlotte, you're in the middle of this. You're between the degree. What about you? What are you trying to achieve from getting this business degree?
What I am trying to achieve is hopefully having my own business that helps people that's been in my situation. And
what is your situation?
My situation, or a similar situation, I'm a single mum and I'm studying, and I wouldn't say I've got the financial help of mummy and daddy.
Even local to you either, so it's got childcare access and things like that are an issue. So that's going to be an inspiration to some of our listeners as well. And Poco, where are you on this issue from our question of the week?
I certainly don't think you need a degree to be able to realize your ideas or your business concepts. A great young person, I'm sure he wouldn't mind. Okay, I wouldn't mention his name, but he's just living down two streets down. We met him when we started. Around the time we started, he was part of the first cohort. But he's already turning over. He's making profits. I mean, whilst the organization that supported him is breaking even, he's making profits, and he's only 18. So I certainly don't think so. And he's got big ambitions, big ideas as well. And there are a few others such as that. I think, though, having said that, that's not to say that if you have the opportunity to go to university, throw it around. And knowledge is power, as everybody knows. And perhaps at times some of the pitfalls that you will fall in, if you were to, go all experimental, perhaps you will be able to just sway past it with a bit more knowledge in hindsight.
Absolutely, and it is never too late. I mean, I didn't receive any qualifications until I was 25. So, and then I had a latent thirst for it, and I'm just about to publish my book next month for My American Odyssey from the Windrush to the White House, as well as a few other things. Okay, it's 6:26 now, so we're just going to wrap up. If you're just joining us again, where have you been? If you've been listening, let me just give you some of the key points. Dr. Fur talked about, obviously, his life, how he became the phone box millionaire, and his hyperactivity is the term he used, as some would say. Talked about the importance of building relationships. We looked at mentoring, of role models, and the role of education in that. But what's coming over is the thing about confidence and not giving up and resilience, definitely. Dr. Fur, final comments before I hand over to the panel.
I think it's important to believe in yourself. The most important thing is to believe in yourself. You are as good as anyone, but you're not necessarily better than everyone, but you're as good as anyone. And you have a right. It's your life. You have a right to go out and create. You have a right to live your life on your terms. And that's what you should do, as long as it is in the best interests of the community around you as well. That's an important thing, is bringing the community into it, because unfortunately, or fortunately, no man or woman is an island. We all do, in the end, rely on each other. If the lorry driver doesn't deliver the goods to you, then you don't get that washing machine. He's bringing that to you. That's his job. You may do a job somewhere else. That's supporting. And the final thing on that, if I might just say, is my fundamental belief on this is that it's essential that we link the powerful stallions that are the stallions, powerful horses of free enterprise, to the community that is the carriage that follows behind it. Without that link, without that absolute link, those powerful stallions, we need to feed them and water them, and all of our entrepreneurs, so that they are able to tow that carriage into a better life out the mud. And that can only happen if it's linked. There's no point feeding those wild horses if they run off somewhere else. They've got to stay, they've got to be part of the community, they've got to contribute. As do the community have to understand that without feeding those horses, there might not be enough money to pay for all these wonderful things we all want. So it's a joint effort.
Wise words indeed. Final comments, Charlotte and Poco?
Yes, I just wanted to definitely agree with Dr. Fear, and I mean, I can't wait till I'm in a position where I can really, say I've made it to a certain position and help others. And I really just want to say, back up on what he was saying, and I just wanted to tell other people not to give up on yourself. I mean, I'm still in a position trying to get there, but as long as you have self-confidence and keep going no matter what, you will eventually get somewhere.
I think all I'll add to is echoing what both of them said, and I like the stallion, the stallion theory. Let's put it that way. But having said that, we're trying to bring in some stallions on the 25th of October. That's the Axe About Me dinner and networking event for both young people and professionals. So
very briefly, what are you trying to achieve?
Well, what we're trying to achieve is going back to the role models and mentors for young people who have ambition, or perhaps who are not clear about, they know that they want to do something, to come into that space and meet some great people. Hopefully, Dr. Fear may be there. It's not confirmed, just so you know, so no big hopes there. But, some powerful figures that we can all learn from will be turning up. So it's the idea of exchanging ideas.
We'll be having more on that on next month's show. The details will follow. We'll put all that online and work on that, as well as some of the links that you've heard. Dr. Fear, we want to thank you so much for gracing our studios, for coming along today and giving your inputs, your time and wisdom to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me.